And now joining us in studio is Tino, Mambeu, a political analyst, and we also have Tinashe, Jonas, the president of Ideal Zimbabwe, and joining us over the phone line we have Kennedy Mandaza, the Zanu PF spokesperson. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in studio.
Thank you very much. And
pleasure being here.
Tinashe, I think a few weeks back we did touch on the violence that we would see, and you had said that it would be coming from the Zanu PF party, and I think most of us didn't really believe you, but let's talk about that. Today it seemed as if it happened, and a lot of people got injured, and we know that at the moment we see that reports are saying that 3 people have passed away. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. The electoral landscape in Zimbabwe is based on power grab. It's not anything to do with the generality of the Zimbabweans. Because hence, when the template is all about power, it's not of benefit to Zimbabweans. Hence, I withdrew my presidential candidacy, and my party withdrew from the elections. Because we knew that from the beginning, coup leaders can't be democratic. On the side of Zanu PF, they have been in power for almost 40 years. There's no developmental agenda. Zimbabweans are suffering. We religiously, on the left, hold elections. The graph is vertically going up. On the right, the graph is, vertically going down. The standard of living. So Zimbabweans are the biggest losers in this election because, okay, let me talk about Nelson Chamisa. The noble thing, remember I warned him here many times. The noble thing Nelson Chamisa was supposed to do as the biggest opposition leader, he was supposed to withdraw from the election. Because remember, he was crying for reforms, which never happened. So what's the purpose of crying for reforms, and then when they don't happen, you go into election? It means you are falling into a trap. And then now they are crying rigging. Year in, year out, they cry for reforms. They go into elections without reforms. They come out crying, we're rigged. So it's like their song. It's like a slogan for MDC. While the lives of people is at stake. Today, Nelson Chamisa was supposed to lead his supporters as a leader, because he was leading them in demonstrations. Today, he's in hiding. He is alleging that he is, assassination attempts. And then the people, because they are frustrated, he was careless to tweet that we have won the elections. And you are tweeting in the comfort of your mansion or in the comfort of your hotel. And then the supporters took it to heart that our leader has won and now is being rigged. So they went to the streets. And he's not there in the streets, and people are being shot and they are dying. Morgan Tsvangirai, he has done the same. People have been killed under his leadership. While it is safe, 2008 he won, he ran away to Botswana. And people were killed and maimed by Chiwenga and Mnangagwa. Because we know Chiwenga and Mnangagwa are devoted and passionate killers. So when you lead people around such, that means when you do demonstrations, you should lead the demonstrations so that you get bullet for your people. So I think Nelson Chamisa is careless and he's selfish because we don't know where rumors are that he's out of the country, he's inside the country, but his supporters are being butchered. Because Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, they are very good killers. You can't release, you can't fire live bullets to people who doesn't have weapons, who doesn't have anything. So the agenda of Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, remember Mnangagwa was smiling all along. For the past 9 months, he was a smiling devil. Because what they wanted was just to use this election for legitimacy. So that now they are in power. The world is yet to see who is Mnangagwa. Remember I said we can't say Mnangagwa would change. That would be expecting then hell would be no more. Chiwenga and Mnangagwa are dangerous criminals and terrorists that I'm even surprised by SADC and AU. They are so good at endorsing an election. I think the best thing to do in Africa is to dismantle AU and dismantle SADC. I think I would do anything in my power next week to meet President Cyril Ramaphosa, because I really think something in his conscience should be activated. I don't want to believe that he doesn't have conscience. Because
let's bring in Tino Mambeu quickly into this conversation. Tino, critics have come out saying that Chamisa must be held accountable for inflammatory and reckless statements that he made, where he declared himself as the winner. Should we be blaming Chamisa in this situation that took place today in Zimbabwe?
First and foremost, I want to take this opportunity, myself personally, to apologize to the people of Zimbabwe, the nation at large, for my activity in November. You will remember that in November, I was one of the key elements in Sandton, in Kempton Park, in the hotels, propping up the process of removing Mugabe from power. The war veterans leader, Chris Mchangwa, when he came here to South Africa, we gave him support because we thought that the process was to benefit the people of Zimbabwe. I went on social media, I went on TV, I went on record, recognizing and supporting the efforts of the revolution in Zimbabwe. My understanding at that particular time was that the people of Zimbabwe were gaining freedom from a dictatorship, from tyranny. But little did I know that 9 months down the line, my people would go into the streets. Yes, they were violent. Yes, there were elements of disorderly conduct. Property was damaged. But the same army that we supported and we kissed in the streets of Harare came into the towns with armored vehicles, tankers, the same tankers that we saw in the towns last year. They came in with those and started firing indiscriminately. You can't go into a city like Joburg and start firing. They started firing at the people indiscriminately. I'm told that about 5 people have passed away in that particular shooting, reckless shooting by the army. When we took out Mugabe from power, our understanding was that we have taken out the prefect of violence. Little did we know that the main architects of violence have now captured the leadership of the country. Now, the nation state of Zimbabwe is faced with a very tumultuous task to try and reconcile itself, to try and find its lost compass. How do we proceed when we have got soldiers that do not hesitate to take out human life? All the people that have been shot, if you have looked at the pictures, it shows people being shot from the back. And people are being shot from the back because they are running away. They are not being shot from the front because they were confronting the soldiers. Now, in any event, we believe that Zimbabwe is a constitutional democracy. At no point, without the order of the commander-in-chief, would soldiers be deployed against the citizens in any capacity. So we see the killing that has occurred today as the killing of the masses, the maiming of the people of Zimbabwe, the slaughtering of the sons and daughters of the soil, as an occasion that has been given the heads out by the commander-in-chief of the military. It is regrettable. Yes, Nelson Chamisa tweeted, yes, he is a political leader. He might have erred here and there, but we have to send a critical message. We cannot have a trigger-happy army that likes to, at any given moment in time, to release bullets into people. If you have seen videos, they shoot from all angles. They do not care. Zimbabwe is becoming a problem. We have nobody to blame. I have apologized to the people of Zimbabwe for my role in propping up this regime. This regime is now becoming a security threat to the people of Zimbabwe. I condemn the tweets by Nelson Chamisa. I condemn the tweets or the language by Tendai Biti. They might have failed here and there, but we have got to understand the context in which these allegations or pronouncements are being made. We have said it before, and severally so, that ZEC is driving people of Zimbabwe into a shameful election no implementation of agreed reforms. We complained about the ballot. We complained about the voters' roll. The version of the voters' roll that was used on the election day is not the same version of the voters' roll that was supplied to the political parties. All those devious acts are the ones that are angering the people of Zimbabwe. Now, we said that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission consummating with Zanu-PF are the biggest threat to national security. Now, I hear all this blasphemous talk to say that Chamisa must be responsible for people that were shot. Chamisa did not press a trigger. Chamisa was not there. The people are owning their victory. The people are owning their revolution. How does Chamisa become responsible for that? I think, in my own opinion, the powers that be in Zimbabwe must take responsible for deploying soldiers, ordering soldiers to kill.
I want to bring in Zanu-PF spokesperson Kennedy Mandaza into this conversation. Mr. Mandaza, we know that the army has shot a lot of people today in Harare amidst the escalating violence over the preliminary results that were released today. I want to get your point of view on what really happened today in Zimbabwe. Why were the army allowed to actually use live ammunition to disperse people, as we know that there were water trucks that were also present? Why was that not just used instead of bringing in live ammunition into the situation?
Good evening to the viewers. It is regrettable and unfortunate that after a very peaceful and orderly campaign period, as well as what happened during the polling day, we have ended up having people dying in the streets of the capital city as a result of the demonstrations that were precipitated by what are viewed as insightful and reckless utterances by some of the leaders that contested during this particular election. Like I've already indicated, it is regrettable, but we must also take note of the circumstances that are surrounding the coming in of the police force to prevent anarchy in the city, and also their entry in the elections command center. It is at the elections command center that those who were demonstrating were trying to go in, that they were denied, and after they had been denied, they went to the Zanu-PF headquarters, where they destroyed a number of things, and they also threatened a number of people because what they were doing was not in line of what is expected of a peaceful demonstration. And it is reported that after they had been dispersed by the police, they left, but later came back. And because of the numbers that were there, the police were overwhelmed, and eventually the police under the army under the command of the police came in to assist the police in trying to quell the tempers that were flaring, to try to restore order and to make sure that there is peace and tranquility in the city, to ensure that we can allow people to continue with their business, while those that would want to demonstrate would demonstrate peacefully. But the antagonistic nature in which the demonstrators possibly showed to those that were trying to restore order precipitated the kind of reaction that we are saying is regrettable, because it led to the loss of life.
And on that point, Mr. Mnangagwa, do we know who gave the go-ahead to stop using water cannons and bringing in water trucks to rather use live ammunition? Is there an investigation to actually find out who gave this go-ahead?
Ordinarily, under these circumstances, after what has happened, an investigation is going to take place. There are a number of these investigations that are going to be taking place. Who gave the demonstrators the go-ahead to go and demonstrate at the ZEC offices where the counting of the collection of ballots is being done. And why is it that people have had to demonstrate at a time when the ZEC officials are within the timelines of the release of the election results? And on the other hand, an investigation may also be needed in order to make sure that we understand where the command came from, whether it instructed people to use live ammunition, or they had a command to make sure that they come in and they bring peace and order in the city.
Let me bring in our political analyst here in studio. Tino Mambeu, what do you make of some of the comments coming from Kennedy Mandaza over the violence that erupted there?
The biggest problem with my very good friend, Mr. Mandaza, is he spends too much time trying to find blame when we are talking about the death of 4, 5, or 6 people in Harare at the hands of rogue soldiers who are quick to turn on their weapons on civilians. Should you be telling us that probably that the protesters have killed somebody, or that the protesters were armed? He's not telling us that. Now, if he talks of destruction to property, that is what he should be saying, that it's regrettable that property has been destroyed. But it's not regrettable that people have died. It is condemned. You cannot just say you regret. You condemn such actions. So he's being unfair to himself. He's being unfair to Zimbabweans. He's being unfair to the world. We cannot have a situation where the army at any time can bank into the city and start shooting mercilessly. That has got to stop. That is not the values of the liberation struggle. When our fathers went to war, they said we will have an army that will protect the people. This army is not protecting the people. In any event, I want to remind Mr. Mandaza, in 2016, the people of Zimbabwe, the youth in Zimbabwe, they were in the streets demanding that Mugabe must resign. Police cars were torched. But we never saw the deployment of the army. They had West running battles, but the police eventually managed to win. They used water cannons, they used tear gas, they used rubber bullets. Does it mean that those things can never be used now? What message are they sending? Are they trying to send a clear message to the international community that we are in a military state where bullets are fired without warning and people are shot while they are running away? That should be condemned. It's not regrettable. It's condemnable. It's barbaric.
And we know that we've seen Mnangagwa, that he came in by the gun and the military and the army. And here we also have Chamisa, who is, what would say, leading in peace, just like a dove. What do you make of the clashes that took center stage, and we look at both the leaders?
Well, Nelson Chamisa has been very clear. He has said from the beginning, we will demonstrate in peace. Now, Zanu-PF has got the tendency of planting barbarians. In all cases, they plant people in there that would cause disharmony, a destruction of property, to find an excuse to break those crowds. These people, as they started demonstrating during the day and all the morning, they were very peaceful. We do not know where the elements that committed all those heinous acts came from. But however, it is the duty of the police to arrest and detain miscreants in society, not the army to come and shoot people mercilessly. If you are wearing red, you get shot. If you are walking in town, you get shot. Journalists being beaten up, just at will. What kind of a message are they sending? President Mugabe reminded us that we are in a military state, and he had urged people to go and vote peacefully. And we are now forced to compare this regime of Mnangagwa and the regime of Robert Gabriel Mugabe. All of the regimes have got poverty. We are poor. We are poor in Mnangagwa's regime. We are poor in Mugabe's regime. But we never had soldiers killing people mercilessly in Mugabe's regime. Yes, he was a dictator. But this kind of dictator is more than what we know.
I want us to get an eyewitness who was on the scene and who shared what transpired. Let's listen into this and we'll come back into studio.
Amazangu ndati ndo zvatakuitwa izvi nezanu. Zanu ndo yakuita. Ari kungoimba ke munhu tinoitora nehondo. Chivengwa ukandibira bhoti tinoitora nehondo. Vasikana kungoimba kani. Pamunasira hake pfuti. Pamunasira chakabata usina chombo. Vauya vomuredzera here vakomana. Igavhumende yerudzii. Akomana ka. Vanhu vari kungoprotesta nokudemonstrate. Hapana chavainacho muruoko mavo, but this is what we get. Ndarwadziwa.
Tino, that witness is speaking in Shona. Can you just translate for us?
It's very sad what the witness is saying. He says people are being shot for only singing that Chiwenga, our votes, we are going to protect them. That is the songs that they were singing. But the army replied by force. And it is so sad to see people being shot like that, like flies. So the witness is crying, is very emotional, is disturbed, is traumatized.
Tinashe, what do you make of what we just listened to right now?
It's very emotional. And the problem in our country is that since 1980, our leaders are being sustained by the military. Mugabe deleted his conscience and bow before the army to say, I want to rule this country forever. So can you protect me? So Mugabe surrendered his civilian powers to the military so that he can be a life president. As you know, that 3 years later, after winning the first democratic election in 1980, there was Gugura genocide. So Mugabe, when he handed over power to the army, now the army, they can't release power to the civilians. So it went on to Mnangagwa having a fake coup with his friend Chiwenga. General Chiwenga is the person who is running Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa is just a mask. He doesn't have any power, anything. So, Chiwenga, you can't resign as a military commander, and then a few days later you are a minister of defense, and you are the vice president. So, the countries, and Chiwenga is just what can I say? Is just a shallow-minded, evil man. So, there's no education. He never went to school. He was just given a doctorate degree bought by the government. Remember, in Zanu PF, they give each other fake degrees. So when an ignorant, uneducated person is commanding the military, then you know that any noise, any movement, whether it's a fly, they'll shoot.
So you're saying that we should have expected this to happen? This
was expected, and we expect worse. Because the military is being commanded by a fool. And from there, Chiwenga is the one running the country. You know, military, Mugabe was not choosing wise people around him. He was choosing stooges, people who were worshipping him around him. So now, when those people are now in the offices of power, it's a disaster. So, because remember, a civilian president should command the military. So Mnangagwa is a military. Again, semi-literate, a fool, a murderer. So when two killers are in control of the army, it's a problem. They don't listen to voices. As I speak here, there's so many attempts on my life.
Let's try and get some reaction from Kennedy Mandaza, Zanu PF spokesperson. Kennedy, so far, what do you make of some of the comments that we've been hearing from studio? And we also saw that video clip of someone who was a witness during this time where people were being shot in Harare.
The president of the party, who happens to be the president of the country, has been very clear in terms of his desire to unite and bring peace in the country, because he understands that these are the ingredients for the country to develop. And you would understand that even during the campaign period, he insisted on the need for Zimbabweans to be united, to campaign peacefully, vote peacefully, and he even urged the Zimbabweans to remain peaceful even after the elections. And he was the first one to admit, to say that if elections results are published, he will accept any result that comes. So this which happened this afternoon is not anything that is by design from the president or anyone in Zanu PF. No one had planned it before, and no one would want to plan anything of this nature. I would want also to say that it is not true that Zanu PF is in the habit of planting people when opposition parties are involved in skirmishes or demonstrations, so that we can have an unhappy ending with regards to the demonstrations. Those allegations are unfounded, and they are peddled in order to achieve a certain objective. But in this case, Zanu PF has nothing to do with the demonstration that took place today, and did not even plant anyone. And it remains in the drive that we have been advised and informed by the president to keep peace and to accept whatever result that comes out of this election. And what has happened today is not something that anyone can celebrate. Like we have said, it is regrettable, it is unfortunate, because it has led to the loss of lives of people who, when they left their homes, never thought that they would not go back. But it has happened, and it should not be accepted at any
But now,
given
Mr.
time.
Mandaza, we know that the preliminary results came out today, and that caused a bit of that tension there in Zimbabwe. Now, we know that the presidential results are expected to come out tomorrow. But now, looking at that, will the military be briefed? And the police, will they also be briefed on how to handle the demonstrations that will take place tomorrow? Because if we have seen that today, people are not satisfied with the preliminary results, what should we expect more tomorrow?
I'm not so sure that the people were not satisfied with the preliminary results. Because what we have heard is that MDC was saying that it would want the election results to be released very fast. And because of the processes that has been taking in order to release those results, might have led to what we later saw. And even as far as the police and the army are concerned, they still work under the command that they are given, and we cannot as a party dictate to what they are supposed to be told and what they are supposed to do. Our army for a long time has been known as a professional army, and our police has been known also to do very well in terms of ensuring that there is peace and order. And what we have said, and what the majority of the people have said, is that this which has happened could have been as a result of the incitement that came from the reckless utterances from the political actors who were part of this particular election process, who declared themselves winners before the election results are out, and who also went on to say that they will not accept any other result other than the results that favor them. And by so doing, the failure by ZEC to release the results at the time that the people expected them, according to their own timelines, then resulted in the demonstrations, resulted in the skirmishes that ended up in the death of 3 people, which is quite regrettable and unfortunate, and it is not something that anybody will celebrate. And we are hoping that once the presidential results are out, the political actors, including the presidents of the parties, should make sure that they advise their supporters to exercise restraint and to make sure that they accept the results that are come out. If they have any complaints with regards to the results, I think there are mechanisms that are enshrined in the electoral law and the constitution which they can follow in order to make sure that their grievances can be attended to and get resolved.
I'm going to come back into studio to Tino, our political analyst. Now, we know that for months we had been discussing here in studio that the electoral process could be an issue for most of the opposition parties, and also know that Zimbabweans had also raised this issue of the electoral process looking at ZEC. Now, we know that the opposition still went into elections knowing that this was one of the issues that they were not satisfied with. Does this mean that the violence should be blamed on how ZEC carried out these issues when the opposition had raised them?
It is very plain and simple. We said that ZEC was becoming a security threat. And it is what is happening. They should have listened, followed the law, the constitution, did as they agreed with the political parties. We wouldn't be here. Remember, an uneven electoral playing field results in a disputed election. A disputed election creates a legitimate government. It is not favorable to anybody. These are the cries that we have been making since the process unfolded. That ZEC must ensure that people have got confidence in its administration. It is not the responsibility of the people to find confidence in ZEC. But it is the responsibility of ZEC to make sure that people are confident in it as a state institution. But they've dismally failed to do so. They've dismally failed to do so, and here we are. We prophesied this situation, we saw it, and we advised them. But they never want to listen. Now, because people have died, they want to blame the opposition. The opposition simply said there are people that are doing wrong things here. And the people reacted. After the reaction, the army comes in and they fire bullets. Why?
Tinashe, I want to bring you into this conversation. I know that you've always said that, looking at ZEC, you're still looking at Zanu PF. It's still one and the same thing. And you had mentioned that it makes no point for you to go to the polls. It makes no point for you to go into these elections. What's your take now when you look at the situation?
Yeah, as I said, our leaders in Zimbabwe, they want power, nothing else. Chamisa knew that he was contesting an election against the military. There is no way you can defeat the army. The only way to defeat the army is two ways. Number one, a military, operation. Two, a civil, peaceful operation. Because in Zimbabwe, any leader should desist from making his supporters demonstrate as a group. Because the army would round them and they would beat them up. I tell Zimbabweans always that when we want to demonstrate, we should start from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. You wake up, you light up a fire. I do fire revolution. You wake alone, you light up fire, you come and sleep. The Zimbabwe should be burning from tomorrow night. Let's burn the country, and if Mnangagwa wants me, they open a case in Zimbabwe, I would fly into Zimbabwe because I'm ready to die for Zimbabwe. I'm not hiding in South Africa. I'm spreading the facts and exposing evil to the world because the Zanu PF, they own private media and government media. The army has captured everything which is government. So Zimbabweans forget about SADC. SADC is a group of evil. AU is a group of old age devils. What we need to do as Zimbabweans, we should realize we are on our own, and tomorrow night, let's light up the country. The military can't accompany every Zimbabwean. I'm the one saying this. If you are listening to me, General Chiwenga, if you are listening to me, Mnangagwa, if you open a case, make me know. My number is on my Facebook page. You call me, I come to Zimbabwe. If I'm to die, I'm ready to die.
Tino, what do you make of AU and SADC not really doing much for the people of Zimbabwe?
The biggest problem in Africa, especially with the dictatorships, they thrive on a guided democracy. Now, guided democracy is not real democracy, because in guided democracy, that's where you find state institutions being made to operate in a certain way that favors the incumbent. So yes, we have had peaceful elections. No, now they are no longer peaceful. I mean, the process was at first peaceful, and it was being manipulated so that it comes out as a, as a process which is up to standards and all that. And we have seen with SADC endorsing that election. The European Union mission has said, no, this election is far from being perfect. It's far from being credible. It's far from being fair. That is the election that we have had in Zimbabwe. But SADC goes ahead and says this is a proper election. What are they looking for? They are looking for getting out of Zimbabwe, and they do not know that they've just started many, many problems. South Africa here, expect keep your fence open. People will be coming to South Africa. Keep it open. All organizations that assist people here, they must prepare for the influx of Zimbabweans into the neighboring countries, especially here in South Africa. So at the end of the day, they might endorse shame elections. It will still bite them in their countries. Zimbabwe bends, the region bends.
Mr. Kennedy, I want to come to you because we know that 3 people have passed away, and we know that it was due to that violence that took place there in Harare. Do we know any more details around those casualties?
From what we have heard from the police, we have only gathered that there are 3 fatalities, and there is scores of people that also got injured. And all the other details, I think the country will be furnished by the responsible authorities, that is the police, and they will be handling the issues as required by the law. But let me also say that going forward, I think it is important that as we go into tomorrow to possibly getting the presidential results, all Zimbabweans should be called upon to restrain from engaging into acts that are against the law. If there is need for demonstrations, then they need to be peaceful, and they should be guided by the police, as what has been happening in the past. And we also appeal to our leadership in the various political organizations to make sure that they preach the gospel of peace and unity, so that going forward, there is no one who can develop our country other than us Zimbabweans united and working together. And that we can only achieve if we remain united. And when we have differences politically, there are dispute resolution mechanisms that are enshrined in our constitution, in the electoral law, which can be used to make sure that whatever we do it to the best interest of the nation.
Tino, we know that with the violence that took place, it took place in Harare. We're just trying to find out what happened in the rural areas.
In terms of violence?
Yes.
No, I don't think the people in the rural areas have the capacity to demonstrate. They don't have gathering points. Where do they go? They stay in sparsely populated areas. There's no organizational capacity for such events. Demonstrations will always occur in the cities. I have not, as we have said here in South Africa, I have not heard of demonstrations in Kwamhlabayalingana, Konongoma, in the villages. So demonstrations, we are likely to go to see them in the cities, as has been the norm. However, we condemn, violent demonstrations. We condemn violent behavior. But we also equally condemn state institutions that are used to defeat the will of the people. That is very dangerous.
And now,
that's a recipe for
we
disaster.
know that the main reason that caused this violence to erupt there in Harare is because of the preliminary results that came out today. Now, looking at tomorrow, it seems as if we might be looking at a similar situation and most probably worse. I think this came from Tinashe when he said that tomorrow it will be worse.
I wouldn't want to say that tomorrow will be worse. If the people of Zimbabwe are going out in the streets to demonstrate, they should demonstrate and do so peacefully. Tomorrow must be a better day for the people of Zimbabwe. Tomorrow must be a day that brings hope. We don't want to see what we have seen. We appeal to the army to sort themselves out. The army cannot be seen as an implement or as a weapon of repression. The army must be seen as a weapon of defending ourselves against external intruders. The army belongs to us. The army is for the people. It's paid by the people. The police should always stick to their duties, perform their constitutional duties, in the way that they've done in the past. This is not the first demonstration, as I've said. We have had similar demonstrations, and police have always been equal to the task. This propensity by these current soldiers, this trigger happiness, must stop forthwith.
Tinashe, your closing arguments on this one.
My closing argument is that Emerson Mnangagwa, as you are the military president of Zimbabwe, and I'm the civilian president of Zimbabwe. You can't command the army because you are crippled there in the wheelchair of General Chiwenga. I am urging you to say, I'm urging Zimbabweans to say tomorrow after the announcement of the presidential election, please, 7 p.m. to 3 a.m., let's ban the country from tomorrow until December. These morons, they should leave the office.
All right. Thank you so much, Tinashe. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming here into studio and having this discussion with me. I had Tino Mambeu, political analyst, and Tinashe Jonas, the president of Ideal Zimbabwe. And joining us over the phone line, we had Zanu PF spokesperson, Kennedy Mandaza, just giving us some more details on what really happened today, as we know that tensions have spilled out on the streets of Harare as impatient opposition supporters took to the streets today. We're wondering what we will see tomorrow. Right now, Africa Tonight, we'll take a short break. We'll be back with more news and updates. Stay tuned.